Fascinating. So what we're saying, right, is changing the way the molecules in the water move translates into a change in the organism that's using that water, drinking that water, whatever.
Exactly.
Right?
It actually transports energy, so to speak. That's why we were in our biophoton research on plants. We realized that when you water the plants with Analemma water and you compare it with plants that were watered with regular water, just like Eric mentioned, there is really more than significant increase in biophoton emissions. Just like Eric mentioned, biophotons are these tiny particles of light that every living thing exudes. And it very directly correlates to the vitality of any biological system.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepic, your host and health coach, here with you every week for our new listeners in 2024. As one critic said, we are wellness without the weirdness. And today's conversation might be a new one for some of you. We started to touch on it in an interview at the beginning of 2024 with Dr. Jeff Crippen. And I mentioned then that we were going to come back to talk about this. So today I have two fantastic guests. So our first guest is an entrepreneur, researcher, and a visionary in the field of health and wellness. For years, he ran a successful international advertising agency and a production house. He's always passionate about health and wellness, about finding natural ways to heal, regenerate, and restore the delicate balance between body, mind, and spirit. This led him to establish a natural pharmaceutical company that successfully helped many people for years. After a while, he became passionate about water. Realizing its extraordinary significance, he established New Earth Technologies, a company that offers the miracle of Analemma water to the world. So welcome, Mario Brainovic.
Thank you so much. It's really a big pleasure to be here. And I'm really looking forward to this interview. Thank you so much.
Same. Yes, absolutely. And with Mario, he is a holistic veterinarian and researcher with over 30 years of experience. During his study of veterinary medicine, he was convinced that besides Western medicine, other treatment methods and visions, like Chinese medicine, are essential to be able to heal both animals and people in their total aspect. He then studied chiropractic, osteopathy, manual therapies, phytotherapy, classic homeopathy, Chinese acupuncture, Japanese acupuncture, neural therapy, and other energetic treatments. He developed a holistic protocol in which many therapies complete each other. As a result of this holistic protocol, horses, small animals, and humans were successfully treated after regular Western medical practitioners failed them. He's a researcher closely involved with the International Research Institute, Water and Light, performing investigations on health and the quality of crops and food for humans and animals. In addition, he's a researcher and developer active in developing products and new treatment methods in systemic medicine. He's written and co-authored 2 books published in the Netherlands and often teaches at educational institutes in the Netherlands and abroad. Without further ado, I give you Dr. Eric Laarakker.
Thank you so much for having me over here. Thank you so much. It was a long story. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you guys are here because, you two came together. And what we're going to really talk about today is the power of water, but more than that, structured water and the energy that happens with water and the power of energy. So I can't wait. And that was actually what Dr. Jeff Crippen kind of introduced to us in January was, the importance and the power of energy in the human body. So I can't wait to dig into it. I want to start with how the two of you came together as co-founders, and then we'll get into Analemma and structured water. But yeah, go ahead. I see you're like...
Yeah, I would just have to emphasize one thing. Dr. Eric Laarakker is actually the inventor of Analemma water. So it was his genius that actually created this water. And really, it's a mouthful when you talk about everything that he achieved already, but he actually created this water.
That was a whole team. I was not the only one, but thank you so much.
Yeah. It's
absolutely.
It's so interesting.
Like any good partnership, right? It's both of you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Among others.
You always need the right people at the right time.
Super quick, let's tell our members what they're getting. Members, your recipe this week is for rainbow collard wraps with peanut butter dipping sauce. Now, I love this one for so many reasons. First of all, it's literally eating the rainbow. The colors are beautiful. Next, it is perfect for any meal or snack. And especially if you need to take something with you, this one travels really easily. You can certainly prep it ahead of time. And then finally, that peanut butter dipping sauce, like I would bathe in it. It is so good. So highly, highly recommend. And then in addition to your recipe, thanks to Mario and Eric, our members are getting 10% off Analemma. This is a powerful tool that you can use to help improve your water, and you're going to learn all about it in today's episode. So if you want this recipe or the discount on Analemma, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts like today, plus access to quarterly live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. When you take advantage of the full offerings, you're going to save far more than that $10 cost. I say it every time. It's a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community, so we can continue to do this with you every week with new episodes and experts. So remember, all you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes because that's a lot easier. Once you're there, you're going to click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the rainbow collard wraps with peanut butter dipping sauce and 10% off Analemma. Okay, Mario, start us off. Talk to us about this partnership.
Yeah, so after kind of running this natural pharmaceutical company for years, I decided to sell it to Walgreens. It was really doing well, so I just felt that it was time to kind of move on. And then I was thinking, if I'm ever going to kind of throw myself into something, I really wanted it to be something that is really for the highest good of all. Something that actually treats people, animals, plants, and environment at whole, which was really a tall order. But as universe would kind of intervene, that's when I got introduced to Dr. Eric Laarakker and his amazing work. And the Analemma project actually ticked all of the boxes, which was really, 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 really extraordinary. It's now years and years ago. And when I came actually to the whole project, since I had the background in human medicine and studies and everything, this is the part that I also kind of brought to the table. And then we started doing various studies. And this water really proved to be extraordinary. We realized in our research that water is the most fundamental level of our biology. When you change that, entire biology follows.
Yeah, I want to take a step back because how did you even come to looking at water? Like, Eric, what were you looking at or thinking about that led to looking closely at water?
Well, water always was a passion for me all of my life. Since I was a little kid, we lived close to a river. And for me, water was kind of a living thing, not like a dead H2O, but a living thing which changed all the time. So it was always fascinating. Spent all of my life, doing sailing, stuff like that. And there's nothing more fascinating than water. I read a lot of books about, healing properties of water, etc., etc. But then more or less, I forgot a little bit about it. And then about 18 years ago, we started off a laboratory and do research in what is life about. We think we know a lot about life, but actually we don't know anything about life. How it's being created, what everything holds together, etc. So we digged into the possibilities, how to do research, and then we stumbled onto the work of famous Professor Fritz Popp, who invented the idea that on living systems, they emit biophotons, light. And the amount of light that has been emitted in tomatoes and human beings, in animals, whatever, that means health. That's part of how the mitochondria function. And by that time, Professor Fritz Popp, he was closing his laboratory because of his age. And we decided to take over the whole laboratory. And we took it from Germany, including everybody who was working over there, to the Netherlands. And we started a laboratory over here. And we just were searching randomly, okay, what is life about? And we even bought a whole greenhouse, a 6-acre greenhouse, just for testing. And soon we came up that one of the most important ingredients to change biophoton emission was actually water. So I came back to my old passion, to put it in that way. And then we start, digging deeper into what can we do with water. There were many water devices on the planet, so we tried all of them. And actually, we were not completely satisfied with what it does, because usually it loses its power after a short period. Can be half a minute, can be a day, but after that it's losing its power. And so we decided, okay, now we're going to do a deep dive into all kind of possibilities, how you can build water devices into astronomy and everything, and put everything together, and did many tests and to see what happens. And then we finally came up to the product that we have now, which did the best, the most, and we could see easily that the biophoton emission in, for example, tomatoes, cucumbers, they went up 50 to 100% more light, which came out of the tomatoes. And so that's actually how we came to the water, and we kept on developing it. And after that, we did some more tests, and then we realized that there is more to it. That's the whole seasonal function in it. So actually now it takes us almost a year to create the mother water, because all seasons matter. Like in the winter time, I'm an acupuncturist, and in acupuncture, like at this time in the winter time over here, your kidney energy is low. So your frequencies change almost every day. So we wanted to have all these parts into it, and we created some more devices to get, for example, lightning in it, until we had the beautiful, perfect device which we have now.
Okay, so I want to make sure everybody is with us for a second. So in the original studies, right, you have this greenhouse and you're noticing the power of water on the plants that are growing in the greenhouse. And you mentioned different devices that you were testing water. So what is it about water, the molecules in water, and what were those various devices doing to change the water?
This is actually I want to kind of make a step back, because Dr. Laarakker went kind of very wide. And I just want to make it very simple for your listeners. We realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So H2O molecules, they actually crash into each other constantly. There's a whole chaos there. And then nobody actually understands that because it's happening on an atomic level. But we found that there is a way to create harmony, to bring harmony back into that chaos, where those same H2O molecules start linking together and creating this liquid crystalline structure. That unique process, water becomes alive. It actually becomes empowered, and it can do so much for our health. Dr. Laarakker often uses this kind of metaphor. If you take 5-watt light bulb, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, it can actually drill a hole through your table. So laser is a coherent form of light. And we are talking about coherent form of water.
Maybe you can also
add
a little bit to make it even more understandable. We know that crystalline forms, they can attract, they can hold frequencies, and they can emit frequencies. And the idea that we have, that what coherence means, is if all these molecules start working together, they create a kind of liquid crystalline form. You can compare it in the first radios, there were crystal radios, and you use a crystal to get a broadcast somewhere. So actually, what it does, if you create the beautiful crystalline form inside of the water, when all the molecules start working together in sync, that it functions like a radio. Actually, we consider our water a radio, which gets all the information out of the cosmos, the healthy, the good information, not the wrong information, and it passes it through in your body. At the end of the story is that almost every chronic disease, is a communication issue in your body. So it helps to restore the communication system in your body. That's more or less how we think that it works.
It's so interesting. So we're talking about literally the molecules in the water realigning and therefore translating into improved communication in the body, because as we know, right, the body is mostly water also.
Yes. Don't forget that 99% of our body molecules is water. It's 70% in mass, but if you're going to count all the molecules, 99% of your molecules is water. That's even more than there is in the sea. The sea contains 96% water, the rest are minerals. But in our body, actually, is 99% of it. So it must be the most important thing in your body. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there so much.
So it's fascinating. So what we're saying, right, is changing the way the molecules in the water move translates into a change in the organism that's using that water, drinking that water, whatever.
Exactly. Right? It actually transports energy, so to speak. That's why we were in our biophoton research on plants. We realized that when you water the plants with Analemma water and you compare it with plants that were watered with regular water, just like Eric mentioned, there is really more than significant increase in biophoton emissions. Just like Eric mentioned, biophotons are these tiny particles of light that every living thing exudes. And it very directly correlates to the vitality of any biological system. So we realized when you change the water with which you water the plants, their biophoton emission increased exponentially. This was our first entrance point into our research. And then we wanted to see, okay, what's going to happen when we give this water to people? So the first study, since this water is electromagnetic phenomenon, let's call it that way, water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So this water actually creates this shift, so to speak. So we were thinking, okay, what is the most electromagnetic part of human biology? And it's actually our brainwaves.
I was just going to say our thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is actually very measurable. Through QEEG, you can very, very accurately measure the changes in brainwaves. And we decided to go with the gold standard study. We actually took identical twins because they're genetically identical. So if you give something to one and not the other, you can very accurately see the changes happening. So the doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. And we were just monitoring the results. And it works extraordinarily fast. As soon as the twin that took a sip of Analemma water, there was very, very fast, almost instant change and better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an instant cooling effect on the brainwaves, while the other twin didn't experience anything. Now, this is something which is really powerful and irrefutable that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. And what we did actually, we repeated the experiment 3 weeks later and we gave the Analemma water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon while the other twin experienced nothing. So this is where this water works the fastest. So this is something that is almost instant. As soon as you take a sip of this water, there is an electromagnetic change within your body. This was number one. And we did many other double-blind, placebo-controlled studies which proved that once you change the water, there is a really powerful, dramatic, long-term change happening in your biology.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about the studies in a second. Before we do that, so backing up, what you guys have is almost like this crystal that you take water out of your faucet and you twirl the crystal in the water and it adjusts the, atomic energy of the water, essentially, right? What are you guys doing to that crystal, or how are you creating it? What is it that we've created?
Well, what we created was what we like to call the mother water. And so that goes through, like I told before, a process of 1 year to get all the seasons in before we think the water is ready. We call it the mother water. And that mother water being put in pure quartz crystal. And why pure quartz crystal? Because it's almost the only thing which looks a little bit the same like water. It can attract all the information, passes it through, and gives it to the water which is around the crystal vial. If you would use normal water, you just take part out of it, but it's not going to be stable. So it's not the crystal who's doing the job, but the crystalline structure which is inside of the mother water. And it passes it through to the chaotic water, which is in your glass, in your jar. And after swirling it, then will get the same kind of structure, which is inside of the vial.
This is exactly what I mentioned. Water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So when we realized this, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is. That's why we created the mother water, because we knew that if we would surround the mother water with any other water, all of the water will become it. That's why when you take the Analemma and you swirl through the regular water, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So effectively, after 30 seconds of swirling, you get a cup of the mother water.
This phrase mother water is making me think that it's sort of like, we've heard a lot about like 5G and all of the emissions and all the chaos that we have in our world, right? Is this essentially like the phrase mother water makes me think that it's like potentially the quality and molecular structure of the water that maybe existed well before humans on this planet, before we sort of disrupted all of the energy of the universe. Is that right? Like if you were to sort of take out all the human influence, is this essentially like ancient water?
Well, of course, we don't know because we were not there at that moment. But to be honest, I think we did something extra because in the old times, water could do its thing by, maneuvering, from left to the right. And that's how it energizes itself. It gets a right turn, a left turn. That's how it energizes itself. We had all the crystals in the rivers, in the lakes who energize it, etc. We decided to do all this electromagnetic harmful fields to put it on this planet, but it's not the only thing. There's many other things which were very harmful. It's like, we've been building straight channels. Water doesn't like that. Water needs to move. Water needs to flow. Water has to go into its vortexes and to enlighten itself with the right energy. So in the old times, it was not really necessary, because everything was in a perfect state that it was. And another thing, of course, what we added to it is toxins. And don't forget, there's a lot to say about toxins. It's not only the physical part of it, but it also has a frequency. It also has an energy. So even if you take out all the harmful products, all the chemicals out.
You mean like with a water filter?
Yes, with a water filter. Yeah. And of course, we recommend that. But still, the memory of all that chemicals is still inside. And the good news is that actually our water makes it less harmful, takes the harmful frequencies out, and it puts it back in the natural state. But can we say it's the same like it was 100,000 years ago? I'm not so sure, to be honest, because I've been testing, I was visiting the South Pole and took some water samples over there. And even that, after putting it next to a Wi-Fi router, didn't do its job anymore. And the same we did with water from Greenland, which is very old over there. And still, it was damaged by Wi-Fi. And usually in our test, what we do, and that's very important, that all the tests that we do is actually with old water. And that's very important. Because if you use, the water straight out of the device, it has a certain property, but it changes very rapidly. So usually all the tests that we do is with water which has been out there for at least 3-4 months. And even we did tests with 1-year-old water, and it was still doing its work. So we know that this water is very stable. Even after 1 year, we had the same results on the plants with human beings, etc. And that's a very important difference, I think, with a lot of water.
What Eric wanted to say is that he was actually referring to the Analemma water and the stability of the Analemma water. Because we tested some other kind of devices that create some form of structured water or coherent water. But we realized that water goes back to chaos between a couple of minutes and a day and a half. While with the Analemma water, we actually tested it for 6 consecutive years now after just one treatment. And its water never went back to chaos.
And especially, when it comes close to Wi-Fi routers, mobile phones, etc. And in our country, and also I think in your country, it's almost impossible not to get this radiation. So that was, that's actually one of the things that makes it very special on Analemma water, the stability.
Yeah. So all of this, right, Mario, when you and I first spoke, I was like, I'm intrigued, admittedly a little suspicious, right? Like I asked you a couple tough questions. And so I want to go there. We want to talk more about the studies that you've done, like the double-blind placebo-controlled studies, and, kind of help people, I think, with that skepticism that they may have. And we'll do all of that after a quick break to highlight our partner for this episode. Big thanks to Lumiere de Vie Skincare for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Lumiere de Vie Skincare was founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns, with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result? Rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful-looking skin. So this time of year with the colder temperatures, we think about taking care of our skin, and especially its moisture, helping it find balance. So maybe you might want to start with the Skincare Value Kit. It gives you cleanser, toner, and moisturizer for just $125. The men's kit is $90, which is a tremendous value for these products. I use Lumiere de Vie every morning and night. And by the way, this time of year, I'll admit I'm not great about wearing my gloves. So I love the intensive hand and body cream. It's just $34.95. And by the way, all of these prices are before your discount and free shipping because you're a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So to get 10% off your order and free shipping, text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie Skincare at 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, so you guys have a lot of studies. The first one, if I recall correctly, was the tomatoes, right? You noticed the difference in the tomatoes that were grown with the treated water versus, tap water or whatever.
Yes.
You also mentioned mitochondria and looking at ATP in a study, right? Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so it's actually cool since this biophoton studies that we did actually clearly show that the vitality of plants increases dramatically. So we want to see, okay, well, how could we test this in humans? What would be the correlation, so to speak? And then we realized it's ATP. Adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of the cell, is directly responsible for powering the majority of the cellular processes in our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Every heartbeat depends on ATP. So it's the actual indicator of the mitochondrial energy of your body.
Yeah, so, mitochondria is such a big buzzword these days, too. So.
Totally. And, scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. So if you are able to increase the mitochondrial function, it's not like you're increasing just the energy of your body. You're actually stopping cellular aging, which is a key thing. So what we did a double-blind placebo-controlled study where people were drinking 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day for 2 months. We employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can actually very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So what we did, we took a snapshot of ATP levels in the participants of the study. Then they drank, as I mentioned, 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. They didn't change their diets. They didn't change their exercise regime. Everything else stayed the same. And 2 months later, we repeated the test. And we had 20% rise of overall ATP levels over the placebo. When you take placebo in, that's 27%. So we are talking about an increase of almost 1/3 over entire mitochondrial energy. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy of the body. So this has actually huge implications on basically anything. And we're not talking about just a muscle performance or athletic performance. People usually don't know this, but the biggest spender of ATP is our brain. 25% of all of our energy goes to feeding the brain. For just one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion ATP molecules. There are billions of neurons. So you can see the correlation there. And of course, high ATP levels are very much correlated to high cognitive performance as well. So the benefits of having high ATP levels are just numerous. And it's really kind of going all over. It's a really holistic effect that it has on your health. So this was a really groundbreaking study, which really proved that something amazing happens when people drink this water.
And that even reminds me of what you were saying before of the twin study with the brain temperature, which for some of our listeners, I mean, we talked about brain temperature with our nutrition nugget on yawning. And part of yawning is potentially connected to brain temperature. And so we think of fatigue, we think of energy, clarity. So it's so interesting. And what else have you guys looked at? There's some microbiome stuff too, right?
Yes.
Yes, we did also double-blind placebo research on the microbiome. So the same setup, that people will drink 1.5 liter for 2 months, normal water, regular water, and Analemma water. And there was a rise about 23% in differentiation of the microbiome. So you have 23% more differentiation in different species in your gut. And the more differentiation you have, the healthier your body will becomes, especially on the butyrate-producing bacteria, which work anti-inflammatory. We saw a rapid change. And it was completely different. Actually, in our control group, it went worse. So that was a nice study we did a couple of years ago. And we're going to repeat that study soon on a large number, more numbers than we did now. But the funny thing is still that doesn't explain why the brains change immediately. We did also a lot of brain studies, like on putting your cell phone on your head, see what happens, and you see in the QEEG, you see the rapidly change in the brains. And immediately, if you drink a sip of water, there's an instant change. That could not be only the mitochondria. It could not only be the microbiome. There's also this instant information change in your body. And that's I think a big part of what actually Analemma water does. It helps to improve the communication system.
I want to come back one step to the microbiome study, just to most probably your listeners are kind of familiar with this. But anyhow, just to kind of maybe refresh, like in the last couple of decades, scientists have connected the state of our microbiome with basically any area of our health. We're not talking about digestive health. We're talking about neurological health, cardiovascular health. I mean, people are usually now talking about serotonin and the importance of serotonin. But what people usually don't understand is that 95% of serotonin is actually being created in our gut by our gut bacteria. And it's being delivered to our brains through the gut-brain barrier. So the state of your microbiome influences how you feel, how you experience life, what your mood is. So the state of your microbiome is extraordinarily important. And we clearly showed that if you drink this water, your microbiome is going to change. So the effects are actually very holistic. That's why we feel in our company that we're serving this water, not the other way around. Because when you see such profound changes happening on overall health and wellness, you kind of just want to do it justice.
And I can add something to it, because I mean, the microbiome, we always look at the gut microbiome, but it's only part of it. I mean, in your lungs, you have a microbiome of 600 species. You have 60 species in your bladder, 1,000 species on your skin, and all of them matter. It's not only your gut bacteria, and all of them change. I read somewhere in a research that they found 1,000 plus species in your brain, different DNA. So we are a microbiome. I always like to say to my students, we are a colony of bacteria in a pool of water run by the cosmos. Then you have everything fit together. And our water is somewhere in the middle that, does all the job, brings the right communication. From that end, the right microbiome starts to grow. And we even proved that also in the soil. We took soil, which was being destroyed by Roundup, and normal soil, and we start putting the water on the soil, and we saw a tremendous change after a short moment in the microbiome in the soil. And as you know, about 97% of the microbiome of our soil has been disappeared. And that's one of the reasons why our microbiome is also now, cutting down in numbers. And that also helps to restore. So we love using it for food, so not only drinking it. And maybe you can come back later on bathing in it, because that's also a special thing. But also grow your food with that water. And we saw immediately on biophoton level that after, if you have seeds, you give them water, immediately in the first day, you see the changes between the seeds who have normal water or are grown up with Analemma water. And they become better year after year until you have your beautiful vegetables. And if you want to grow your salad, use Analemma water for that.
I have to actually, a salad with a side of rice, but I have to, I have to come
grow
back
your potatoes too.
Everything.
So I just want to come back to this groundbreaking study that we did, which Eric mentioned about the microbiome of the soil. What is really interesting and important there is that this was completely barren piece of soil. You couldn't grow anything on it. It was dead.
It was completely made dead with Roundup.
And within only 2 months, what happened is, just like Eric mentioned, there was a huge explosion in biodiversity of the microbiome. So much so that the bacteria in the soil now started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. So it actually becomes an extraordinary, interesting, and an elegant way to treat the greenhouse gases issue on the entire planet. You just throw water on soil and you're changing the microbiome. But the other element is really important. The whole nitrogen cycle of the soil changed. The total nitrogen in soil changed. So within only 2 months, this dead piece of soil became fertile again. Now that has extraordinary ramifications for the entire planet, because as Eric mentioned, he's coming from the Netherlands, and this 97% of all agriculture soil is being used by a large agri company. And there, all over the planet, you're going to see dramatic issues with the quality of soil. And with this water, you can revive the soil and bring it back to health. So all of the nutrients that are being grown are coming back to our food. So we were really passionate, not only of bringing health and wellness directly to people while drinking the water, but to reviving the entire way we're growing food on this planet. Because if all the food are grown in the right way, everyone is going to get the benefit.
Right. So in front of everybody, right, I want to ask you some of the questions that I said to you when we first met, Mario. And that is if this has the potential, as we're saying, to really transform not just human health, but the health of the planet, right? As you think about, the carbon capture and things like that. Why haven't we heard about this before? Why aren't more people talking about this?
This is a very interesting question. And we are doing very much everything that we can to get the message across. And not only that, this is the thing about any new science. Every kind of new scientific endeavor or every new revolution in science becomes as something that people are skeptical about because it's new. But that's why we're investing so much into hardcore scientific methods so that very soon it will become irrefutable. And we don't want to stop here. We actually want to bring it to the governmental level so that actually this water becomes available to everyone. And I can tell you that we are much, much closer now. And our whole mission statement is to bring all of the bodies of water on this planet back into this coherent, beautiful state. We are actually very close to making it happen on the planetary level.
And besides of that, I come from a farmer family, and I know farmers are not easy to change. So it takes a while. It will take a generation before they start changing in that perspective. And of course, there's a lot of money involved and politics, etc. And for many people, it's it's too simple only to use water. You need more. So all of it will take a long time before people really get it. They will try it. They know farmers, if they know they have certain kind of success with something. And for a nice example, we just did some tests on big cow stables. And the reason why the people were willing to try it with the water, they were very skeptical about it, is because they had huge issues. They tried everything, all antibiotics, chemicals, whatever, and the cows were still sick. So they said, well, I cannot lose anything, so we'll try the water. And they saw amazing results in 3 months. I mean, they didn't have to come anymore, more or less. So then they were convinced, and now he's talking with his neighbor, and they're talking with the neighbor. So it will go slow in that perspective.
Right. And you guys have done interviews with, Dave Asprey and Luke Story, Dr. Mindy Pelz. So for people who want to keep digging and hear more, those are other resources. And I guess the other question that I said to you and can hear people asking now is like, how do I know I'm not throwing my money away? How do I even know if this is working for me?
I completely understand that question and I honor it, but that's why we're actually doing the double-blind placebo-controlled studies, and that's why we're investing so much into the science. But I can tell you one thing. I always say this to people. There is a very easy way you can almost immediately see, not almost immediately, it will take a bit of time, but in very short period of time, you're going to see a very dramatic and visual effect. You take 2 basil plants, okay? You water one with regular water and you water one with Analemma water. And you do this for 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, you cut water supply to both plants. Okay. And you can even increase the stressor. You can increase the heat on both of them. And then you just watch what's going to happen. You can see.
All right. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. And, we are actually getting thousands of emails because I took the challenge out. I actually invited people to do this. And they're just sending the photos of those 2 plants. One is shriveled down and the other one is standing tall. And it's interesting how the inspiration came for it. I was in my summer house and it was really, really hot. And I use Analemma water on all my plants. And I had to leave the basil plant and go away for a week. And after a week of intense heat with no water, usually I don't see any plants. They're just kind of dead as dead. It's almost like nothing touched that plant. This is something very visual. And just so you know, we actually did a proper study that is actually going to be published very soon in Tier 1 scientific magazine, where we actually exactly did this. We took basil plants, we watered one with regular water, a couple of with regular water and several with Analemma water, and then we created a short-term drought and we let the plants recover. And we use this latest fluorescence-based technology where you're actually taking each plant and put it in a high-tech scanner, and you're actually getting a mountain of data what's happening within the plant on a molecular level. And the results were phenomenal. How plants resist stress is extraordinary. And we're not talking about just 1, 2, or 3 parameters. We're talking about 20. So when you water plants with this water, they react phenomenally. And anybody can see that. It's very visual. And we were actually inspired. We're now doing a large study where we're measuring nutrient density, shelf life. So all of it is actually inside. So people know for sure. And that's why we're publishing it as well in the Tier 1 magazine. So that people know that when they use this water, they are actually getting the results.
Yeah, love it. And I also think, one of the things for me was the price is pretty affordable and it lasts forever unless you break it, right?
Right.
If I recall correctly, it's like $175 or something, right?
$179.90, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, I felt like I've spent more than that on sillier things with less potential benefit. So I felt, there's minimal downside is the way I think of it. And, with something that has such potential, right? Ready for the basil plant test.
Well, just to kind of add to it, we gave the price this low intentionally because this is not just, our intention is not to sell it only in the States. Our intention is to sell it all over the planet. And $180 in some other places of the world would actually be too high. So we just decided to create a price, even though it takes us, just like Dr. Eric Laarakker mentioned, 1 full year to create this mother water. And it's rather expensive to create it. But we wanted to keep it priced reasonably so that anybody, virtually any family on the planet can afford it. And just like you mentioned, if you take care of it, it's a jewel. It will create coherent water for you for life.
And
Amazing.
To be honest, I mean, the one I use is now, I think, 4 years old and still doing its job.
Yeah.
And it's another way to test it, actually. Almost everybody feels that if you drink the water, if you take 2 glasses, one normal water and make one coherent and taste the difference, because it's a lot of difference in the taste. It have a different mouth feel. It's thicker. It's more fresh. You'll taste the difference immediately.
I actually have to come in there because when I did an interview with Dr. Mindy Peltz, she has a really accomplished sister as well. Her sister, I think she's doctored from Stanford or something like that. And she saw Mindy swirling her water with an Analemma wand. And she was like, what are you doing? And she told her what it's all about. And she didn't believe it. And then Mindy told her, let's do a blind taste test. And 5 times in a row, she just picked, okay, this is the Analemma water. So it kind of, you cannot ignore it. It's something which is really crazy when you look at it. You just swirl this wand through just a glass of water, and the taste, the quality, the state of it changes so that you can actually perceive it yourself. So this is really kind of an awesome thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm fascinated. I can't wait to, unwrap mine and get started. So thank you both for being here. That brings us to our rapid fire off-topic questions. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Mario, we'll start with you. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
The best thing that I did is something I would say that I do every single day, which is to take meditation. When you enter in this timeless state within yourself, your body actually starts to create chemicals which are timeless. So the most powerful anti-aging thing you can do is to enter into this eternal state within you. And the naughtiest, let me check what would be the naughtiest thing. I wasn't naughty this week.
Right. Eric, what about you?
Well, I was naughty this week. Well, actually, the best thing what I did, let's start with the positive thing, is go to bed a little bit more early. Have a good sleep. And when I'm busy, I always forget that I need to sleep. And then, things happen in your mind and are going to work it out. And then suddenly it's late. So, but I think it's very healthy to get you at least 8 hours sleep, 7-8 hours sleep. So I did my best this week. The most naughty thing what I did, I think I was out for dinner with some friends. And so I drank a couple of beers. Sorry.
Love it. All right, Eric, this one will start with you. So if you weren't the researcher behind New Earth Technologies and, Mario, for you, the CEO, what would you do?
I would still run my clinic and work on other projects like information and stuff like that. This became a big part of my life, but I have a huge passion on understanding how life works. And I have a little bit strange brain. I only can think out of the box. And I think in energy. So that's something that will continue forever with or without water.
Oh, so the same question for me? Okay.
Yeah.
Most probably, what I would be doing is teaching people how to connect to themselves in a deeper way.
Love it. Mario, back to starting with you. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
I would say Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. That would be like the book that I've actually read the most times. I think I read it like 40 times or something like that. So that's beyond amazing for me.
Yeah, for anybody. Yeah, Eric.
Well, for me, it will be the work of Walter Russell, Universal One.
Nice. All right. Eric, back to starting with you. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Cancer. I lost all of my family of cancer. Actually, that was inspiring me to look at it from a different side. I lost both of my parents at a young age. A couple of years ago, my brother died. All of them of cancer. Wow. And for me, cancer is, the emperor of disease, if you know what I mean. It's the optimum disease which comes out of information issues. When the cells stop giving the information, communication, let's put it that way, then you get your cancer. Especially because cancer in our country, and I think in the US it won't be different, is becoming a huge thing more and more. And so, that's the optimum way to go, if you know what I mean. If we could cure that, you can cure almost everything.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. Cancer, I would add diabetes as well, because it's so widespread. And if we kind of take care, it's both metabolic when you look at it. So when we knock that off the planet, I think that we would create something truly, truly, truly amazing. And just so you know, Dr. Eric Laarakker is working on it already.
All right, well, we might have to have another conversation on that one, because diabetes is like, and metabolic health is so close to everything.
The good thing is with diabetes, you can do a lot. I've been in a diabetes research, not myself, but I was with friends who were looking at it. And actually, 8 out of 10 diabetes 2 types, you can change it very easily by the right food. So that's another issue, that we have to learn people how to eat correctly again.
Yeah. And there is the premise of salad with a side of fries, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
Right. All right, Mario, next one, start with you. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Transmitting the frequency of God.
Ooh, good one. Eric.
Well, I cannot use that one anymore. So that will be healing people and animals on this planet.
All right, Eric, starting with you. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Unconsciousness, when people don't think.
Yeah. Mario.
Interesting question. Biggest pet peeve. I would also have to agree with Eric. Unconsciousness.
All right, Mario, back to you. This is the last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness? Although maybe we know the answer, but
I would definitely have to say water, because it's actually, I believe, going to be the revolution in science is definitely going to be connected with water, because we realized when you change water, entire biology follows. This is the most fundamental level of our existence. When we change that, everything else changes and everything else follows.
So, yes, of course, the water, but I would like to add another thing to it, and it's called information. I think the future of healing will be on water, but also on sound, frequencies, etc. The combination is beautiful. So the future will be in information. We already call it information medicine.
Right. Love it. Well, thank you both for being here, for not just sharing your time and energy with us, but all the work that you've been doing and helping get the word out there. So thank you. Thank you. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more, all that good stuff.
So I invite people to come to coherent-water.com. Anybody can, of course, if they want to buy any parts of technology, because we have really a lot of applications now. And if you want to follow our work, I invite people to jump on our newsletter, because we're constantly investing in new science. And I can tell you one thing, we barely scratched the surface of the beauty of this water. And we are now going in many directions. So almost every single, let's say, couple of months, we're having a new study coming in. So this water is truly, truly amazing. If you want to follow our work, just go to coherent-water.com, jump on a newsletter, and you're going to be in contact with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. Appreciate you both.
Thank you so much.
So
friends,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, on Friday, our nutrition nugget, we're going to talk about your acceptance speech. So it's awards season, right? We had the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice, the Emmys, most recently the Grammys. And I'm struck by the acceptance speeches. I'm curious if you've noticed them. And if you're wondering what they might have to do with our wellness, we're going to talk about it on Friday in this week's Nutrition Nugget. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you on Friday when the Nutrition Nugget is ready for you. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENN. TREPECK. Website is A Salad with a Side of Fries. Merch is on the website, whether social media or the website, send a message. I want to hear from you, your key takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the best way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Mario Brainovic, Dr. Eric Laarakker, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having us over there. Thank you.
To be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And friends, if you're not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community so you can continue to support your health and our show. You'll get this week's recipe for the rainbow collard green wraps with peanut butter dipping sauce and 10% off Analemma. So until next week, remember, water is critical for life and for health. And yours might improve by improving the structure of that water. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.